Maybe just get you to crowd around this area just here. What we might do to start with is just talk through the stations. I'll tell you about all the equipment that you've got to use here today, and then we'll go through the equipment and talk about different components that we've got in an espresso machine and a grinder, and I'll talk you through the scales and the tamper and pretty much everything else as well. The way the rest of the class is going to flow is that after we've done that, I'm going to get you to jump on and just have a play around, touch everything, make sure it's working. Who hasn't used a Synesso before out of you guys? Yourself? Really? You guys are just started. Okay, cool. Alright, so we'll clear up some of the mystery of that. So this will be a good opportunity for you guys who haven't to just jump on and push buttons and see how it works pretty much. Once we've done that, I'll take you through the first practical exercise. So we'll talk about those techniques that we just talked about in the introduction there, so dosing, distribution and tamping. And then we'll spend a good 20 minutes just working our way through that. I'll give you some time to practice and just make heaps of coffee. We'll do a little bit of tasting today after that. I would really like to do some of that visual analysis and taste analysis with you guys. So we'll talk through how things look, how they should taste. And then finally, we'll start refining some of our brew parameters. So the entire first exercise will be working with dose, but we're going to start aiming for some specific targets a little bit later. And that'll lead us into then working on grind. So we'll make some adjustments up there. And while we're doing that, we'll be trying to achieve a specific recipe. So that's when measurements are going to come in. That's that sort of 2-hour time frame just working on coffee. Once we've done that, we'll dive straight into milk. And I'll give you guys as much time as possible just to practice steaming and pouring, doing the same exercise. Sound good to you guys? Cool. Alright, let's get stuck straight into it. So just down the bottom here, this is our pitcher rinser. This is where I'll get you to rinse out your milk jugs. And also, if you're catching espresso and we're just in the middle of an exercise, rather than generate heaps of dishes, just use this to wash your cup and then keep it somewhere where you know it's a dirty cup. Don't put it back up here. Be careful not to mix those things together. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy to use, really, really handy. We've got a few cloths for our station as well. So this one here is just for our steam one. And this guy over here is for our machine and for our bench. And generally when you're working in a cafe, you want to leave those in convenient positions where you know where they are all the time, so you can just very quickly come along and wipe things down. So a concept we call cleaning as you go, very, very important. We want to make sure things stay tidy. And this one is not used for anything else. Why would that be?
So you don't want to be wiping the bench and then wiping
the seat going like that.
Yeah, exactly. I hate when I see sometimes people grab that and wipe it off.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just good practice to keep this like really dry, really, really clean. You wash it throughout the day as well. And also, it's a really good idea if you notice any milk build up at all in the steam wipe, just to keep that nice and clean. For hygiene, but also because your customers notice that straight away. So it's about time. Okay, so moving along over here, we've got our knock tubes built into the bench. So when you finish making a coffee, what you do is hammer it out onto that bit of rubber, so right across the middle, just there. Try not to use the back, otherwise you might lose the basket into the bin there. And then you'll notice it's got a bit of residue on that, that's why this tea towel is here. And with the tea towel, always use the back side. That'll keep the front nice and clean and presentable. And again, that's just another thing for customers. They'll come and they'll see a nice clean station, and it just works. Now these guys, sorry.
It needs to be like washed between time and time, or just dry?
Just dry, yeah. We do wash it, but not in between like this. And the main reason for that is if you do put a little bit of water through this just to rinse it. It drips for a long time, and then you pick it up, and it generally just gets water all over the workstation, but it holds a bit of water. So we recommend people wash it on a regular basis, but that's not in between every coffee.
So this won't fix the taste?
No. As long as you periodically clean it, it's not going to affect the taste. But every time is not such a great idea for a workflow scenario. So, knock tube. These guys need to stay up here after we've hammered out the coffee. So once that's nice and clean, try to keep these nice and hot as well. That'll keep our brewing process really consistent. Moving along here, we've got a set of scales that I'll get you guys to use to start with. And what we'll do with these, once you're ready to dose coffee, is just place them on top and then push the tear button to make sure they read 0 just there. So you see we've got a few controls. We don't really need to use mode or on or off today, just make sure the scales are on. And then that's the tear button. And this is also a timer, so a little bit later when we want to start using recipes, this is what we'll utilise to do so. Okay, so that's the scales. You've also got a second set of scales back here, and this is what we'll use to weigh our espresso a little bit later. Very slimline and can sit just under there. Okay, so that's pretty much it as far as the stations go. We've got a milk fridge just down the bottom, so that's later on we'll grab milk. And this is our dishwashing station just over here. So if you have got some dishes that you'd like to wash, just give them a rinse, stack them upside down, and I'll turn those over and actually leave all the clean stuff just up there. So if you're running out of anything, that's where you find it. So just jump over and grab it. So guys, that's pretty much our stations. Let me take you through the equipment now, and then we'll just get you to jump on it and have a quick play with these machines. So let's talk about the components. You can tell me what this bit's called. Steam wipes, yep. And the steam wand obviously are dispensers of steam. So we activate it with that handle that's there. And on a Synesso, these are variable pressure. So if you want to get a little bit, you can. If you want to get a lot, you can also. You'll also notice that these, when you turn them on straight away, have a little bit of water that comes out first. So we need to purge that before we put that steam on into our milk, just because we don't want that water going in there. That'll change our consistency a little bit. We've also got two different steam tips here, and these behave in different ways. These acorn-shaped ones are really, well, they're low pressure, but that means they're actually you're going to steam the milk faster and a bit more violently. So if you want a more gentle, fun experience, maybe use that guy just there. So that's got smaller holes, but more of them. Okay, so it's high pressure. So yep, steam one, pretty straightforward. This is our brewing component just here, and does anyone know what this whole unit is called? One of these? Yeah, group. So group head, that makes this a 2-group machine. Obviously, that's how we refer to machines generally, so you've got 2-group, 3-group, 1-group. And this is where all our brewing happens. We're locking the coffee up into a sealed environment, and we give it access to a boiler with really hot water, and there's a boiler on a Synesso for each one of these group heads. And then down the bottom here, we've got our external pump, and that's going to force that water through at a really high pressure. And we can check the pressure of that just on the side here. So when you flip this on, you notice the little gauge on the right-hand side starts moving, and it tells you how much pressure it's applying. And does anyone know the standard for that? What's it supposed to be set to? 9. Yeah, absolutely. So close to 9. We say kind of 8.5 to 9.5, somewhere in there is generally pretty good. That's the industry standard. This little gauge over here is for the steam pressure, so when you turn that on, you'll notice that moves a little bit. Does anyone know the standard for this? So it's about 1.5 bar. So that middle circle in the middle, we want it to be around about 1.5. And the controls for that are just under the bottom. I'll show you through that a little bit later if you're interested. Just let me know. So the last thing on our machine, just here, is this tap. So really easy to operate. We just turn it on, we turn it off. And obviously our drip tray here is something we need to keep clean. So as you're going, just give that a wipe down. Now the espresso making process on this machine is it's pretty straightforward. After we've locked our coffee up and we've sealed it in, we've got 2 options for how we start the shot. Does anyone know what this part in the front is called? Volumetric, yeah. Points for you. Very good. So that's the volumetric keypad, and what we can do with the volumetric keypad is program these buttons to give us very specific volumes of water. So what's the benefit of that, do you think? Why would that be a good thing to use? Yeah. Yeah. Of course, yeah. But it's pretty close. Like, so this is based on volume, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great tool for cafes to use. It's very, very consistent, and if you team that up with keeping your dosage really consistent, it's a really, really great tool. But as a training tool, it's maybe not the best. If I say just push that button, that's the right button. That's the one that gives you the awesome espresso. It wouldn't quite be accurate. There's so many things that go into that. So what we're going to do today is learn about those things. And I'm going to get you to use that switch on the side there to start shot, so there's that flick switch. We'll be watching how they extract, we'll be looking for some visual cues that tell us when we might be finished, and then we'll be flicking that switch off when we think it's done. Okay, and a little bit later when we work on milk, we will go and use these. We're going to automate this whole system after we've set up our grinder. Okay, any questions about any of this stuff before we move on? Beautiful. So we've gone through the scales. The grinder here is very simple to operate. It's got a keypad on the front, and this comes in two different sections. The top part's for programming the bottom buttons, and these are our dispensing buttons, just here. The two on the far side are programmed to dose coffee set to a timer. So if we push that button, it's going to grind for as long as whatever it's programmed to. Whereas this button in the middle here is manual, so we can just hold that down as long as we want to grind coffee. So what I want you guys to do is just to start with, just practice, grab the lid, push the button, just check that these all work. And if you want to check where they're actually programmed, so all coffee, just chuck that in there. But if you want to check where these auto buttons are programmed, we hold down the menu button, and then you push the button that you want to check, and that literally is how many seconds it's grinding for. So that's 100th of a second on that side, and that's 3.95 seconds. So to get out of that and to start using these buttons, we hold that down again, and we're away. So what would be the usefulness of that, do you think? What would changing the time do? So if we grind for less time or more time, what's that going to affect, do you think? Yeah, so keeping the same number over and over, will you keep it consistent? Is that what you mean? Yeah? Yeah, absolutely. And then changing the number, it's going to change how much coffee we get out as well.
Like a single group or double? So
Yeah, if you were to do that, you could use this for one dose and this for another. Yep, absolutely. So that's the value of these, and it's a similar story to these guys. If I said, yeah, push that button. Alright, it doesn't work that way either. So we're going to work with targets today. I'll show you how to set that up. And to start with, we're just going to use that manual button and free dosing and experiment with our dose to do a few things here. So guys, how does that sound? Do you want to jump on and have a play around? Choose yourself a machine. All 4 machines are set up, so feel free. That one at the back is a little bit different. It doesn't have volumetrics, it's just fully manual. So if someone's feeling confident. Yes, you can. Done. That is a machine. Alright, jump on guys, team up as you see fit.